your CC is out there in the middle of nowhere for everyone to take. Yeah, well, Zero Hedge just put out a tweet that I thought was just too funny. So Zero Hedge has this tweet, and it's this image that's part of the leaked emails from Ashley Madison, because the whole data dump got put out there. So Ashley Madison's data is pretty much out there for the taking. Anyone can have it if they want it. And now it appears that Tony Blair was a user of Ashley Madison, if these records are to be believed. But as it is now, the email is tblair@labor.gov.uk. There's quite a few others as well. There's tony.verity@hmps.gsi.gov.uk, tracy.weiss@camden.gov.uk. All sorts of different governmental officials were apparently on this cheating website, which leads to some interesting questions, such as, is this what they're doing in their spare time? And I hope they weren't using this in their official capacity, right? I mean, they're using their government email. That's like if I use my work email here to sign up for porn sites. That's just a bad idea in general. And so is signing up for porn sites when you can get anything you want for free. But anyway, it's just a bad idea all around. There's nothing positive about this. There couldn't possibly be. So it's very... well, it's odd when you put it on his face, but the Washington Post has another article about it. That's, well, it's really just, it's astounding, really, when you look at what's been going on with Ashley Madison. Now, again, Ashley Madison is a website that's dedicated to basically cheating on your spouse. The slogan is "Life is short, have an affair." So that tells you something about it already. You put in your credit card info for some reason. You put in your name, your email address, your location, all that sort of thing, and then you can have an affair. And there have been allegations that there are very few women actually on the website, and most of them are bots and are men. So that sort of leads to some problems in and of itself. But the Washington Post has an article that says, "Don't gloat about the Ashley Madison leak. It's about way more than infidelity," saying amid reports that hackers apparently had posted online the personal and financial information for up to 40 million members of the Infidelities R Us website, Ashley Madison, some Americans responded Tuesday with a shrug. Just as many, however, responded with a bit of a smirk. They say, call it shade and fruit, or to use the parlance of high-tech, low-sympathy times, oh gosh, they say collective lulls, which is awful because I hate it when news websites try to use internet vernacular in any sort of hip and cool way, because it's just annoying. But many people took to Twitter to express their amusement at what seemed like poetic justice. So who knew that paying money to cheat on your spouse had consequences? Hashtag Ashley Madison, one person tweeted sarcastically. Many have been poking fun at the website and the people who got in trouble as a result of it. But of course, there is something to be recognized as well, which is that lots of people's personal information got out there, which is, of course, not really a good or positive thing. Avid Life Media, or ALM, is the owner of Ashley Madison, and Avid Life Media has failed to take down Ashley Madison and Established Men, which is the sister site to Ashley Madison. The Impact team wrote in a statement accompanying the alleged leak, according to Wired, saying, "We have explained the fraud, deceit, and stupidity of ALM and their members. Now everyone gets to see their data. Find someone you know in there. Keep in mind that this site is a scam with thousands of fake female profiles. See Ashley Madison fake profile lawsuit. 90 to 95% of actual users are male. Chances are your man signed up on the world's biggest affair site but never had one. He just tried to, if that distinction matters. Find yourself in there. It was ALM that failed you and lied to you. Prosecute them and claim damages, and move on with your life. Learn your lesson and make amends. Embarrassing now, but you'll get over it." So says the leak. So interesting information coming out of the Ashley Madison leak, and it's making me wonder, are we going to see more out of this? Is there actually going to be a lawsuit? I mean, we can hope, but is there actually going to be a lawsuit? We don't really know at this point. It's sort of unclear as of now, but I haven't seen any rumblings of litigation as of yet. But, you know, there's still hope, right? Well, although some security experts are casting doubt on the authenticity of the 9.7 gigabyte leak, most say that it looks legit. Brian Krebs is a security expert who writes on KrebsOnSecurity.com, and he was skeptical at first, but then reported late last night that he had spoken with 3 vouched sources who all had reported finding their information on and last 4 digits of their credit card numbers in the leaked database. I'm sure there are millions of Ashley Madison users who wish it wasn't so, but there's every indication that this dump is the real deal. Assuming that it is, Tuesday's threat appears to fulfill the threat that was issued in July when the Impact team first claimed that it had hacked Ashley Madison and said that it would publish its customers' records unless the company permanently took down its website. But before you celebrate your comeuppance over less ethical friends and colleagues, consider this. The Ashley Madison leak is a lot more about the public shaming of philanderers. Above all, it's about internet privacy, because that is something that needs to be brought up. Now, whether or not you necessarily agree with AshleyMadison.com, none of us do here, by the way, then you will recognize that this is a massive breach of privacy and security, which again shows that nothing is completely secure, nothing at all. Even servers, and especially government servers, or even private servers that should be government servers. Now, we've been hearing a lot about the whole Hillary Clinton thing. And by the way, this is AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. We are everywhere. Listen live to Hot News Talk Radio at hotnewstalkradio.com. Download the TuneIn Radio app and search for Hot News Talk Radio. Hot News Talk Radio is also on Twitter, where you report the world decides. That's AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. You can save half off now if you go to hotnewstalkradio.com and click on the half off link for great deals. Hot News Talk Radio is saving you money. That's AM 1240. Hot News Talk Radio. This is Digital Drive. I'm your host, Russell. We're talking about technology and quite a bit more, and also the ramifications of using said technology. Now, while I love technology and I use it every single day, in fact, I'm using it right now, and I'm pretty well embedded into the tech sector, you might say. Now, I'm not the most tech savvy person in the world. That would be Kevin Mitnick, but I am pretty savvy. And there are a lot of things that my attention is called to by different friends and colleagues, and it's just astounding sometimes what's been happening just recently in the political sphere. So what we have just recently is we've had a problem with Ms. Clinton possibly using a private server in order to receive confidential, potentially private, or rather potentially, what's the word? Confidential, and then there's top secret, there we go, emails. And that's kind of a problem, right? I mean, we all know that that's not a really good thing, that you're receiving private emails or even public emails, or emails that should be made public on a private server. That's definitely not good. However, something that's worth noting is that this is probably not a unique instance. Also, the nonchalance that Clinton is showing about this is somewhat disturbing in and of itself as well. Because now we have her being very, very nonchalant about the whole email server thing, even making jokes about it or feigning ignorance about it. And it's making a lot of people very kind of upset about the whole deal. And it makes you wonder, is there more going on here than meets the eye? Because it seems like if there's really just this big scandal going on with this email server and she's being so nonchalant about it, it makes you wonder if this is the least of her worries and she's almost glad that there are people talking about this instead of about, well, other things. In fact, she's so nonchalant about the whole email scandal that she's comparing it to Deflategate, the whole scandal with the NFL and whether or not Tom Brady deflated footballs intentionally, or was it basketballs, or maybe it was tennis rackets that he deflated? I don't know. I'm not a sports guy, but that would be the job of Keon Rose, by the way, who's on here on Hot News Talk Radio. He is our sports correspondent. You can hear him tonight at 6 here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, and hotnewstalkradio.com is going to be talking about sports here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. He knows a heck of a lot more about it than I do, which perhaps is not saying that much because I know nothing at all about sports, but trust me when I say this guy knows his sports, and maybe I'll be sitting in to learn a thing or two about sports from Keon, and he'll be on here on Hot News Talk Radio AM 1240. Well, Hillary Clinton's campaign has actually compared the email scandal to Tom Brady's Deflategate, and that's a stretch, to say the least. That's like not even a comparison. So, top spokeswoman of the Hillary Clinton presidential campaign on Wednesday appeared to compare the complexity of her email controversy to the New England Patriots Deflategate scandal, saying this is like everyone's an expert on inflating footballs, and now everybody everybody's an expert on wiping servers. Like, I don't know how that all works, says Jennifer Palmieri, who's Clinton campaign's communications director, during an interview on Bloomberg's With All Due Respect. She's the communications director? Gosh. Clinton is now facing widespread scrutiny over her use of personal email servers for government business during her time as Secretary of State. Critics are also questioning the subsequent wipe of her server of thousands of emails that her team deemed personal after handing the rest over to the State Department, which, of course, is not really a call that they are qualified to make, but oh well. And, of course, Patriots quarterback Tom Brady was accused of intentionally letting footballs be deflated beneath the National Football League standards during the NFL playoff game earlier this year. According to the league, Brady destroyed his cell phone even though he was aware that the investigation had requested access to text messages. Now, to be fair, I would do the same thing, but still makes you look kind of bad. Now, if you're going to destroy a cell phone during a investigation, at least try to make it look like an accident. You know what I mean? Like, you keep seeing people who are all like, oh, it's just an accident. I destroyed my cell phone. Whoops. At least try to make it look like an accident. Like with Hillary Clinton, you'd think that she could use her demonic powers to summon a lightning bolt to hit her server or something, right? I mean, come on. I keep seeing all this about, well, maybe it was an accident that our servers got wiped and all this stuff. And it's like, come on, servers don't get wiped by accident. They really don't get wiped by accident. It doesn't work that way. There's no way, unless you're kind of really dumb and your sysadmin does not know what he's doing or she's doing, which is, well, actually likely because we're talking about the Clinton campaign. But still, it's kind of a stretch. And it just makes me mad every time I see this, because not because I'm so anti-Clinton or I'm so pro any other Republican candidate, because I'm really not. It just makes me mad because it's so inept and people don't understand the technical complexities of it. And it just drives me nuts when we're talking about the whole Hillary Clinton email server thing. So if they did delete these personal emails on her server, which of course is kind of not legal, then it, of course, makes you wonder what they're trying to cover up, if anything. And also there could be ties to Benghazi, which we've at least been hearing a little bit about anyway, the ties to Benghazi that could possibly be there. There's all sorts of different problems with the whole email server leak, or non-leak, I should say. So then it makes you wonder why nobody's scrambling to hack into the server, right? I mean, after all, the server was held in a rather unsecure location in a loft apartment, if I'm remembering correctly, in like a bathroom closet or something like that, which you'd think would be prone to overheating. So I can't imagine that the server was very high end. But anyway, so I wonder why nobody hacked into it at that point. You'd think somebody would have, or you'd think that the CIA would have, in its infinite wisdom. You'd think the CIA would be hacking into Hillary Clinton's email server. But alas, we're not seeing any evidence of that. So we have to face facts. Chances are we're never going to see anything out of the Hillary Clinton email scandal other than just it happened. It's going to be sort of like, it's not going to be nearly as bad anyways, the Lewinsky scandal, right? It's not going to be as big a deal as all of that. In fact, this is a minor scuff mark on Clinton's track record as far as the campaigns are concerned. This is going to be an interesting talking point for the opposition, but again, people who are going to vote for Hillary are going to vote for Hillary anyway. Now, there is a divide between Hillary and Bernie Sanders, who is extremely far left, even compared to Hillary, at least openly, and it's leading to a lot of political tension within both parties, because there's a lot of infighting now going on in both of the parties. But overall, Hillary appears to be the main candidate. Now, somebody could come out of totally left field and change all of that, but as it is now, it appears that Clinton is the main candidate and will probably be taking a good 40-something% of the vote, if not a complete win. So it seems pretty obvious at this point. So is it worth it for us to get all mad about Clinton and her emails and all these sorts of things? Does it really matter in the broader scale of things? Yes, it does. But focusing on this one thing is not the way to go, because there's a lot more going on that's sort of more important. We'll put it that way. I mean, yeah, there's the whole Benghazi thing, but then why did the Benghazi incident happen is a question should be asked. Why was the consulate in Benghazi still being operated? What was going on at the consulate in Benghazi in terms of operations? Nobody really wants to answer these questions because they say it's top secret. But then again, shouldn't we know at this point? Well, if you are looking to have emails which are as secure as the whole as Hillary Clinton's, perhaps Hillary Clinton should have gotten a Lava Boom account. Except Lavaboom has now declared bankruptcy, unfortunately. Lavaboom is a German startup company that was building zero access secure email server that focused on simplifying PGP encryption security to target a more mainstream user base. And now it's shutting down and filing for bankruptcy. It seems like anytime you have a privacy-centric email service, it gets shut down after a certain amount of time. Like LavaBit. The owner of LavaBit, which was a email server that the owner could never get access to your emails. It was great. He basically was forced to shut down his service because he would not hand over records to the government. Instead of handing over records, he chose to just get rid of all evidence that had ever happened in the first place, which was a exemplary and it was a well, what's the word I'm looking for? It was a exemplary move, I guess. It was the right thing to do. It was a moral thing to do, but still, it was sad that the whole thing went down the way it did. It's just the whole LavaBit thing was just a sad thing. So LavaBoom was essentially the successor to LavaBit, which was, of course, a secure email server, which meant the government could not get to your emails, which is good. See, people say, "Oh, I have nothing to hide," and as my good buddy Bob Biles has said, if you have nothing to hide, then hand over your credit card information and all of your email passwords. Well, nobody's going to do that. So obviously people do have something to hide. Everyone has something to hide. There's no denying that, even from the government. And I would say especially from the government in my case, but everybody has something to hide. That's just the nature of it. That's just how it is. But going by the whole thing where we say, oh, well, I have nothing to hide, so go ahead and search my car. That's just the silliest thing ever. And when it comes down to emails, you definitely have something to hide because somebody could send you something that you didn't even consent to having sent to you. And now it's technically in your possession if it's in your email address. Think about it this way. I could potentially send you, now that's not saying I would, but in a theoretical situation, I could send you child pornography. And now that's in your email server. And if you have your phone set up to be, say, POP3, where it downloads every email that you get, then now you have child pornography on your phone. And there's no denying that. You have it on your phone now. So what are you going to do? Well, there's nothing you can do. It's been downloaded to your phone. So if for some reason somebody wants to search your email and they find that, you can then be prosecuted for having possession of child pornography, like our good buddy Jared Fogle, the former spokesperson for Subway, has gotten in a lot of trouble for something very similar to that happening. And it's leading to a lot of really just messed up stuff happening with emails and privacy. And it's a messed up market. But the one thing we have to understand is that privacy should trump everything else. You have to be private and you have to be secure in your person's papers, housing, and effects. And sometimes the government is not going to protect you with that. So you should protect yourself. And the best way to protect yourself is to take cryptographic measures, which you can, of course, do if you have a private email server such as that one, or an encrypted email server where nobody knows the password except for you and only you. If you host your own email, there's a lot that can get done. There are a lot of other services out there that are replacing Lavaboom, fortunately, because we live in a free market society, at least somewhat. And in our free market society, anytime a business collapses and there was a clamor for that business to exist, another one's going to pop up to do exactly the same service. That's the nature of a free market. Free market exists despite government, not because of it. And fortunately, we have a free market here in the United States where I'm hoping anyway, we'll be seeing another private email server or private email service popping up quite soon. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We are everywhere. Listen live to Hot News Talk Radio at hotnewstalkradio.com. You can download the TuneIn Radio app and search for Hot News Talk Radio. Hot News Talk Radio is also on Twitter, where you report the world decides. That's AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You can save half off now if you go to hotnewstalkradio.com and click on the half off link for great deals. Hot News Talk Radio is saving you money. That's AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. It's a gloomy day here in Chattanooga, by the way. Gosh, it's like driving in here, I didn't see a whole lot of rain, but I was afraid that it would just, the bottom would pour out and I would be drowning on the interstate. Fortunately, that hasn't happened yet, but also, unfortunately, we're expecting rain for tonight and tomorrow a little bit as well. So our weekend, we might be seeing a bit of rain. Highs, though, are going to be in the 80s, which is kind of interesting because it's, August. You don't really expect that out of August. Fortunately, the fall is coming up. I can't wait for fall. I'm so sick of these hot, humid temperatures here. I just can't stand that. So here in Chattanooga, we have, I think, some of the prettiest falls possibly in the country. Our winters are also extremely pretty. If you walk on, there's nothing like walking on the Walnut Street Bridge after it snowed. There's nothing like it. It's an experience that has to be experienced. So if you live in Chattanooga and it happens to snow and you have access to the Walnut Street Bridge, walk across it, because there's nothing like walking across the Walnut Street Bridge after good snow. It's just, there's something about that that's so interesting. This is Digital Drive. I'm your host, Russell. We're talking about technology and quite a bit more right here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, and of course, hotnewstalkradio.com. Get the TuneIn app for your smartphone and listen to us live on there as well. This is Hot News Talk Radio and hotnewstalkradio.com. It even works on your Android phone, too.
This is a modern world. This is the modern world. What kind of fool do you think I am? You think I know nothing about
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Sky Aerial Services uses advanced drone technology to give you a better perspective and depth of your property and project. We offer aerial photography and video for your business, farm, home, or advertising campaigns, as well as editing services to complete the experience. Call us at 423-521-0284 and see how we can help you tell your story about your business, property, or project. We work with real estate professionals, both commercial and residential, developers, engineer inspectors, surveyors, ad agencies, auto and boat dealers, mapping services, insurance inspectors, corporate marketing, charity events, weddings, and photographers. Our consultation is free. Call 423-521-0284. That's 423-521-0284, or visit our website, skyaerialservices.com. Sky Aerial Services. The sky is our limit.
Talk 1240.
We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
You feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducks. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Hi, I'm David Tulis, inviting you to make the move with me 9 to 11 a.m. weekdays here at AM.
Fox News Radio. I'm Lillian Wu. Former President Jimmy Carter speaks publicly for the first time about his cancer diagnosis.
Carter announced that although a recent operation was successful in removing cancer from his liver, the cancer has spread to 4 spots in his brain.
Fox Radio's John Decker.
The news, Carter admits, threw him initially for a loop.
I just thought I had a few weeks left. But I was surprisingly at ease.
Carter, who is 90 years old, will now undergo 4 chemotherapy sessions, the first one this afternoon.
3 firefighters lose their lives battling a blaze in Washington state.
Forestry officials say the firefighters were involved in a vehicle crash and were likely surrounded and trapped by the fast-moving flames.
Fox Radio's Cornell Scott. And $1 million bond has been set for the Ohio woman accused of killing her 3 sons. Fox News. We report. You decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You'll notice when you watch the news that you'll never, ever see somebody bring on a real privacy expert to talk about how you can stay secure. And that's something that is a dang old crying shame, man. when it comes right down to it, because it drives me nuts when they talk about, say, net security on some pundit show on cable news, and then they'll talk all about how, well, you know, the NSA plays a necessary duty in the security of our country, and we absolutely need the NSA because if we didn't have the NSA, then terrorists would overrun our country, and we need to spy on everybody because everyone is a potential terrorist or something like that. And that whole narrative just drives me nuts because it makes no sense at all. It's just like, it's nonsense, and yet people pass it off as though it's just the wisest thing in the world. It's this faux wise nonsense that drives me nuts. This is Digital Drive. We're talking about technology and quite a bit more here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, and hotnewstalkradio.com. Also on the TuneIn Radio app. All you got to do is search for Hot News Talk Radio on the TuneIn Radio app on your smartphone. You can listen to us streaming anywhere in the world on your smartphone, and you can go on Twitter as well and search for Hot News Talk Radio. Be sure to follow us on Twitter here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. Now, people, for some reason, have this very obnoxious idea that for some reason, this uber patriotism is just the way to go when it comes to handling things. Where people will say it's not the ideal system, but it's the best one that we could possibly have. Well, the whole NSA thing, but we didn't have the NSA back in the 1930s, and there were no terrorist attacks then in the United States, barring maybe a few anarchists or something like that. But people think that this system is absolutely necessary in order to run the country, and it's really not. In fact, it's going to lead to the downfall of the country. The Uber state is going to lead to the downfall of the country. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Collapse kind of has to happen. That's just the nature of it. Collapse has to happen. Every country's government collapses. That's just the way things are. But it seems very naive to think that only good can come about with this whole governmental intervention in the privacy sector. You see, net security has to be monopolized by the government. If the state didn't totally have a monopoly on internet security, then there'd be no reason for the state to be at all involved in the government, or rather, I should say, at all involved in the internet. If there is no governmental intervention with internet business, then there'd be no reason for the government to really exist on the internet. People have this odd idea, too, that for some reason, because the government is there, it must do things, when really the best option is for the government to really do as little as possible, because I don't want the government to get involved in different things. And you probably don't, too, and I'm sure you don't, because you're a smart person, but it seems like people are pushing this idea that, well, we need the state, but I'm not sure why. You know, people say, well, we need the state because we need a standing army to protect us from such and so who might try to do bad things. I think maybe possibly ISIS or something. And we keep pushing this boogeyman narrative that's really not working out too well for us. You know, we keep pushing the whole, ooh, the boogeyman's going to come and get us, with next to no proof whatsoever. Like, you have to actually give evidence that there's a boogeyman out there that's coming to get us, and then maybe we can talk about defense, but in actuality there's no proof of anything out there to get us other than hearsay and UN speculation and some expert they hired off the street to say that there's something out there. Yeah, not very convincing. So the internet has to have some sort of internet wing, and that would be the NSA in this particular case. Otherwise, there'd be no reason for the government to exist at all on the internet. And I would posit that there's no real good reason for the internet to exist at all. Rather, there's no good reason for the state to exist at all. I mean, period. There's not really any good reason for the state to exist. And it's very annoying when people will be state apologists and they'll say, oh, no, we need the state because who would give out them benefits and who would give out welfare and all that sort of thing. Well, there's such a thing as charities, believe it or not. I know it's a scary thought, but there is actually such a thing as charities and churches and neighborhoods and all sorts of things that don't require the assistance of the state. Go figure. Well, a U.S. security check company that greenlighted Edward Snowden has been slapped with $3 million fine for fraudulent practices, or rather $30 million fine, I should say. The firm was the largest provider of background security checks on numerous U.S. federal agency employees, including whistleblower Edward Snowden. And now it's going to have to pay out $30 million, concluding a 4-year investigation into its rather lax practices. The United States Investigation Services Incorporated, or USIS, as the private company was known, has been suspected of massive irregularities and in its work for some time. The probe uncovered very serious breaches of security from 2008 until 2012, as hundreds of thousands of cases were found to be poorly processed before being approved and sent to the agencies tasked with ensuring that these people were checked out for purposes of national security, of course. The 2011 lawsuit, joined later by the U.S. Justice Department, resolves claims that no adequate quality control was carried out during background checks. The $30 million settlement, I should say, also relates to a wider bankruptcy deal for Altegrity Incorporated, the USIS parent company, which filed for bankruptcy back in February. The thing is, though, we need another Edward Snowden. And we need another Edward Snowden fast. Things are getting worse and worse and worse when it comes to accountability, to the point where we may as well not have any sort of accountability at all. We can't count on the government to hold itself accountable, so we have to count on whistleblowers and hackers to hold the government accountable at this point. Some sort of intervention on the side of government is not going to happen. Think about the email server scandal that we have here today, where the email servers are being looked at as, Hillary Clinton's emails are, they're going to come and get us or whatever. Hillary Clinton has these secret emails that she's hiding from us, and there's not going to be any sort of accountability. Like, who's going to enforce that? You think the FBI is going to come in and arrest Hillary Clinton? I very much doubt it. Well, you think the CIA is going to hack into her email database and try to find out what's going on? I kind of doubt it. In fact, she's probably working alongside the CIA, if anything. So asking for some sort of arrest of Hillary Clinton is really asking far too much of a system that doesn't really want to arrest Hillary Clinton in the first place. So that's something that has to be kept in mind, is that there's not going to be any sort of meaningful accountability when it comes right down to it, because we're just not going to be seeing that. We're just not. Why would you expect there to be any sort of actual, meaningful, real accountability in the state when we haven't seen any good example of that in the last ever? So there's not going to be accountability for the state. As much as we'd like to say that there will be, there's not going to be. So that's why we need another Edward Snowden. Without another Edward Snowden, we're just going to have more and more problems. We need somebody to be a whistleblower, and we need one fast, kind of like a Daniel Ellsberg or a Bradley Manning, now Chelsea Manning, or an Edward Snowden. We need someone like those people. We need people like them to keep government accountable. I mean, think about the Pentagon Papers. We wouldn't know half of what we know about the Vietnam conflict without the Pentagon Papers and all the scandals that came with that. We wouldn't know anything at all about the NSA practices were it not for Edward Snowden. We wouldn't know a lot about really much of anything were it not for Edward Snowden and his very courageous actions that he took. So it's upsetting when people say, oh, he's a traitor, he should be hanged, and all this sort of thing. And it's especially upsetting when it's a government official who's saying it, because then that just proves what side they're on, which is certainly not the side of the people, that's for sure. Well, that's the wrong thing. Don't you hate it when that happens? Phones are one of those things where they're so convenient, but they're also kind of ruining our lives. I just thought of that the other day, where I have this phone that I just got maybe a week or two ago. I might just say maybe last week, I think, is when I got this new phone. And it's made everything so much more convenient, but it's also made things horrible because I'm always on this phone now. And on the one hand, I have to have information where, like, I can't sleep now because all this information is right at my fingertips, and I'm a very curious person. So I keep going to my phone and needing to look up things, and it's just, it keeps getting worse and worse. Well, the Ashley Madison hack is not only legit, it's much worse than we thought. The massive leak that was attributed to the hackers who rooted the Ashley Madison dating website for cheaters has been confirmed to be genuine. As if that wasn't bad enough, gigabytes of data, which is compressed no less, is far more wide-ranging than almost anyone could have imagined. Researchers are still poring over the unusually large dump, but they already say that it includes usernames, first and last names, and hashed passwords for 33 million accounts, not 13 million accounts, 33 million accounts, partial credit card data, street names, and phone numbers for huge numbers of users, and records documenting 9.6 million transactions. Yeah, and 36 million email addresses. While much of the data is sure to correspond with anonymous burner accounts, it's a likely bet that many of them belong to real people who visited the site for clandestine encounters. For what it's worth, more than 15,000 of the email addresses are hosted by U.S. government and military servers using the .gov and .mil top-level domains. We also have noticed something kind of funny, which is we're seeing that there are a few people in the UK who work in government, at least allegedly, who are using Ashley Madison accounts. And that's something that's particularly funny, actually, because one of the emails is that of our good buddy Tony Blair. Yeah, Tony Blair's email is in this, his governmental email at the Labor Department, or his Labor Party, I should say, email address is part of the leak. That's kind of, well, frightening to say the least, that Tony Blair may have been using Ashley Madison. I'm sure his wife has a lot of questions for him incoming. So it's interesting to see how that's going to go for Tony Blair. The leak also includes PayPal accounts used by Ashley Madison executives, Windows domain credentials for employees, and a large number of proprietary internal documents. Also found were huge numbers of internal documents for Ashley Madison, as in like different things such as well, there's incoming stuff for Ashley Madison, I should say, and there's like personal emails in Ashley Madison's staff. There's stuff going on with the whole internal memo system with Ashley Madison. It's just a whole big mess. The biggest indicators to legitimacy comes from these internal documents, much containing sensitive internal data relating to the server infrastructure, organizational charts, and more, says Trusted Sec researcher Dave Kennedy in a blog post. This is much more problematic, as it's not just a database dump. This is a full-scale compromise of the entire company's infrastructure, including Windows domain and more. Kennedy, who additionally said that 4 Ashley Madison subscribers told him that they found their data in the leak, isn't the only one to confirm its authenticity. Both Errata Security CEO Rob Graham and security journalist Brian Krebs have reported Ashley Madison subscribers telling them the last 4 digits of their credit cards were included in those files. Much of the data includes subscribers' sexual predilections, all of which are very nasty, by the way. And this write-up also provides a few miscellaneous details, including that the leak originally occurred on July the 11th, 10 days before it became known to the world. A separate blog post published by Graham also provides rather interesting details, to say the least. Officials at Ashley Madison parent company Avid Life Media, or ALM, have issued a statement saying that it left open the possibility that the leak did not include real data, although that doesn't seem to be very likely, considering that it's been basically proven that the leak actually does include real data. So what does this mean for you or I? Well, hopefully you don't use Ashley Madison, so it shouldn't mean a whole lot for you in that regard. But when it comes down to, say, the whole issue of, well, what about our privacy? That's where things start to get interesting, because nothing is totally secure. There is nothing on this planet that's even close to totally secure. Fort Knox is not secure. Say all you want about Fort Knox, it has the best security in the world. It's not the most secure thing ever. Even if it was, it's not completely secure, because there's some way to get in there. Human error is one of the biggest factors in these sorts of things. And if there is going to be a human involved, there's going to be potential for gross negligence, I should say. And it's really going to lead to a bad situation for you. That's something that has to be kept in mind when you're signing up for any sort of website or any sort of service, or even a bank account at your local branch. It's not totally secure. There could be a bank robbery. Yeah, your money's insured, but that means that the branch itself is not totally secure. Maybe you can't make a withdrawal that day. All sorts of different factors come into play. And if we're talking about, say, an account on PayPal, PayPal can be hacked. And that has happened before. And credit card companies can be hacked. Visa can be hacked. All sorts of different terrible things can happen to you. And it's really not anything that should be, quaking our boots about. It's not something that should keep you up at night, but it's something that should be kept in mind, is that we need to be more secure in how we operate. We need to be more secure in how we're going about our day-to-day lives. Not in the sense that, like, I'm going to live in a bunker somewhere out in the middle of the woods. I'm going to be 100% self-sufficient and all these sorts of things. No, but we should be more aware of what's going on around us. Not that we should change our daily habits or anything like that, but we have to know, and we have to keep in mind that our bank accounts are not secure. Our PayPal accounts are not secure. Our Social Security is not secure. Our the tax returns are not secure. Social Securities are just not secure, and chances are my generation is not even going to be able to collect Social Security. So that leads to a whole wide range of problems as well. So it's a sad situation, but it's one that we have to deal with. Japan's government apparently cannot afford to keep giving old people presents, which further proves a point that we've been making for quite a long time now, which is that the government can't always afford to keep running, right? If we keep involving government in different things, like, say, helping out the poor, that resource is going to run out eventually. It's just always how it is. Japan's government has announced that it's cutting back on gifts for 100-year-old citizens, I should say, as the country's growing elderly population has made the practice too expensive to continue. Traditionally, the Japanese prime minister presents centenarians with a silver sake dish that's worth about 8,000 yen or $64 as part of the country's Respect for the Aged Day celebrations. When the program began in 1963, 153 individuals were given cups, but last year that number had risen to 29,357, according to a report from the Japan Times. Costs for the initiative hit 260 million yen, or $2 million, in 2014, and the country has subsequently decided to find a cheaper alternative using a less expensive material for the dishes, or simply sending a letter of congratulations instead. So instead of a present from the Prime Minister, you get congratulations, you're old, #Centurion, or something along those lines. Yeah, not very encouraging, is it? Well, apparently, according to the LA and San Francisco DAs, a killer, a burglar, and a kidnapper all apparently drove for Uber. That's problematic, to say the least. Now, if you're not familiar, Uber is a ride-sharing service that touts itself as a totally not taxi service. The idea is that with Uber, you're buying a ride from a private individual who happens to be contracted through Uber. So then that leads to more peace of mind for you, perhaps, knowledge that you're helping out the local economy and some local person. So you do get that peace of mind when we're talking about the driving situation where you're stimulating the local economy, you're helping out your neighbor, and that's a good thing. The problem is Uber doesn't run itself like a regular old company. In fact, it says that it doesn't have any customers at all, or rather, not customers, pardon, employees at all when it comes to the drivers. The drivers are not employees from the perspective of Uber, which, again, is questionable. They say that it's contractors, actually, and not employees. Questionable because the State Department is saying that that might not actually be the case. There's local municipalities who are saying that that's not the case. Nevertheless, regardless of what you think, Uber says that it does not have employees. But Uber also has to do background checks, just as any employer does. And Uber's background checks aren't very good, according to the San Francisco and Los Angeles district attorneys, who listed 25 individuals with criminal records or fake driver's licenses who drove for the car-sharing service. The list of crimes these drivers committed is actually kind of long: assault with a firearm, sexual exploitation of children, theft from the elderly and disabled, and identity theft. The DA discovered these drivers while doing research for their lawsuit against Uber over the way that it markets its background check practices. Uber has deactivated most of the drivers the DAs pointed to, except for a remaining few. It's waiting on more identifying information from the DA to find the remaining drivers. For anyone following the ride-hailing company's controversies with security issues, this is the latest revelation about unsavory drivers, and it will probably come as no surprise. Throughout Uber's short history, there have been several instances of drivers with undetected arrests or conviction records who then allegedly groped, raped, or even assaulted passengers. One issue is that Uber is not legally mandated to do the gold standard of background checks, live scan fingerprinting. That is required of taxi drivers in California, as well as workers in other sensitive positions such as nurses, teachers, and paramedics. Now, that's not to say that Uber should be shut down, but perhaps Uber as a company should take better practices. Something can be learned from this, absolutely, which is that keeping your passengers, your customers' security in mind is certainly something that any well-meaning service should do. Interesting new service that's come out of Copenhagen, actually, called Church Desk. So we could make use of that here in our area as well. Almost every business, according to TechCrunch, almost every business process or human interaction is rapidly being digested and digitized and offered via the cloud. A seemingly endless supply of startups look to disrupt legacy software or often old, completely non-digital ways of doing things. Enter Copenhagen-based startup Church Desk, which is a cloud-based platform and mobile app for iOS and Android that's helping church staff and volunteers run their church more efficiently and better engage with the local church community. So the company, which was launched in 2012 by CEO and founder Christian Stephenson, whose mom is a pastor, has raised a new $2 million round of funding led by early-stage venture firm Mangrove Capital Partners. It plans to use the investment to expand the product and marketing team, accelerate the rollout of new product features, and ultimately drive uptake across Europe. So it seems that connectivity is helping out even in the, I guess you want to call it the church sector, perhaps. So we're seeing a lot of connectivity between different businesses and different business partners that really wouldn't be there before. Like now there's a there's a service for different different neighborhoods. I keep losing words today. Different neighborhoods to connect with the police in a way that you really wouldn't see before. And it's interesting to see how social networks are being used in different new ways that really weren't there before, where social media is being used in a way that we don't really think of previously, where it used to be you would have a social media thing with say you'd have social media where it's just for connecting with friends and not really much more. But now it's more that we can use social media to connect with everybody. Potentially, we can connect with businesses, we can connect with governmental officials, we can connect with our local neighborhood watch, we can connect with basically everybody. And it's doing a lot of good actually in terms of business, because now businesses can connect with local people, which leads to better marketing and, of course, better capitalism. Apparently, jury nullification has done more than just saying no to governmental overreach. It's also reaching a positive lococentric ethic, I should say. And jury nullification is an interesting topic. It's an interesting conversation that needs to be made. That I've been reading a lot about jury nullification, where a law can essentially be seen as null, regardless of whether or not the person actually broke the law. Jury nullification is something that needs to be looked into. I've also been reading a lot about this odd thing that's popping up from Memorial Physician Services or something along those lines, that apparently there's a drug going around schools called Strawberry Quick, or like strawberry meth, and it looks like Pop Rocks, and kids are eating it. It also smells like strawberries, apparently, and comes in other flavors like chocolate. And of course, the lesson should be learned that you should not let your kids take candy from strangers, but apparently it's actually crystal meth, and it can actually kill them. So parents need to be aware that apparently it's looking like there's actually crystal meth being passed around in schools that could potentially not look like crystal meth. So this is an exclusive story to Hot News Talk Radio. We're going to be digging more into this, and we're going to talk more about this at 5 o'clock here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. Now, as it is, we don't have a whole lot of details on this, but as it is right now, it looks like there's crystal meth being passed around in schools that looks like candy, and it actually looks like Pop Rocks, because crystal meth, when in crystalline form, looks a lot like Pop Rocks, and it doesn't take much. Just add some food coloring to make it look like actual candy. So you definitely don't want your kids to be taking meth. We're going to be talking more about this here on Hot News Talk Radio at 5 with Hot News Live at 5. Don't forget to also listen to Keon Rose, who's going to be on at 6 here to talk about sports on Hot News Talk Radio. We have a ton of great programming. We have Daybreak USA. We have the David Tulis Show. We have Eric Judd Show, Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Hot News Now, or rather Hot News Live at 5 here on Hot News Talk Radio. We have again, Keon Rose is on at 6, and American Now with Megan McCain, I should say. That's a tough name. And Ground Zero and Coast to Coast AM, all right here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, and hotnewstalkradio.com. Check out our Twitter, Hot News Talk Radio, and check out our TuneIn Radio app as well. You can search for us there, Hot News Talk Radio. This is Hot News Talk Radio.
This is the modern world.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
A few scattered showers and thunderstorm showers will move on through for the afternoon. Still lots of clouds out there. Highs into the lower 80s. Tonight, becoming partly cloudy, a little milder lows, mid and upper 60s. For Friday, a drier day, more sunshine, nice highs, lower to middle 80s. Looking good for the first half of the weekend as well. Check out Burger King. Looking for an inside deal? Burger King's got the answer. Download the Burger King app now to get exclusive savings of up to $30. Restrictions apply at Burger King. And I'm WDEF News 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Here you are, working to keep your customers happy and to manage your cash flow. IRS problems are the last thing you need, but here they are, flapping about you like vultures. Get help from Eric Pelton and his team of accountants at EJ Pelton Company. Audits, letters, proposed return changes, 1099s, penalty threats. Pelton Tax Resolution Services brings peace of mind and helps you keep more of what you've earned. EJPelton.com. Offices on Brainerd Road and in Soddy Daisy, just north of the Bi-Lobe. That's EJ Pelton. Call 622-3156. Think ahead, 622-3156.
Arnie Guest Goldsmith, Chattanooga's gold standard in quality, selection, and beautifully handcrafted jewelry. Arnie Guest Goldsmith has 7 jewelers on site and ready to assist you in the design of your one-of-a-kind diamond piece. Arnie Guest Goldsmith, Chattanooga's gold standard in quality, selection, and beautifully handcrafted jewelry. Arnie Guest Goldsmith has 7 jewelers on site and ready to assist you in the design of your one-of-a-kind diamond piece to the perfect affordable handcrafted gem. From just $20 silver earrings to your dream elegant work of art to adorn your finger, neck, and wrist, impressing your friends and family, Arnie Guest Goldsmith will ensure that your budget is met. Planning the perfect wedding or a special event? Then let Arnie Guest Goldsmith assist you in choosing or designing the keepsake that will last you a lifetime. All of Arnie Guest Goldsmith repairs and crafting are done in-house, so you can be rest assured that it will meet or exceed your expectations. For over 30 years, Arnie Guest Goldsmith has served Chattanooga with the finest jewelry and services, meeting only the highest quality and standards. So the next time you think of jewelry, custom design, remounting, appraisals, or repairs, remember Arnie Guest Goldsmith. And please visit Arnie Guest Goldsmith at 5090 Adams Road, Hickson. That's 5090 Adams Road, Hickson. Call 875-2390. That's 875-2390. Or go to jewelryfromscratch.com. That's all one word, jewelryfromscratch.com. Jewelryfromscratch.com. Arnie Guest Goldsmith of Chattanooga.
If you have the DTs, the shakes, because your phone is on the fritz, you have nomophobia. You need help. Your telecom doctor is in. Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall. Cell Surgeon yanks open the ribcage of your phone, pries out the dead heart, and puts in the beating life that you lead on your cell phone. Broken screen, phone not charging, water damage, battery given out? Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza. Check us out on Facebook. Open Sunday. Cell Surgeon. We bring your phone back to life. Mention Hot News Talk Radio and get 10% off.
It's time to show Iran that the American people stand united for Israel and against this nuclear deal.
An urgent message from the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews in Jerusalem. A dangerous nuclear agreement reached with Iran threatens the U.S., Israel, and the free world. Here's Rabbi Yechiel Eckstein on the danger.
Iran continues to wage war throughout the Middle East and terrorism. It supports terrorist groups like Hamas and Hezbollah, who continually threaten Israel with war.
Your voice is powerful and needed in the fight to protect the Judeo-Christian world from the terrorists who seek to destroy it. The fellowship urges you to contact Congress today and ask them to say no to Iran nukes. Visit SayNoNukes.com to have your voice heard in Washington. That's SayNoNukes.com. The peace of Zion and Jerusalem depend on you. Thank you for taking action today.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made. I'd probably run for president of the Southern states. The day Elvis passed away would be our national holiday. If the South would have won, we'd have had it made.
NASCAR, Laura Ingraham, David Tulis, Coast to Coast AM, and CBS Radio News. Chattanooga's news, talk, and sports leader.
News Talk 1240.
This is America Now with Meghan McCain.
Al Gore running is crazy. You're flying around in your private jet all over the world, and you want average Americans to care about the environment. Don't you think you should be doing your part as well?
Meghan McCain, weekdays at 7 p.m.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Sunny Daisy, Chattanooga.
CBS News, I'm Peter King. Jimmy Carter says his cancer diagnosis is in God's hands, and he's ready for what's ahead. Former president spoke to reporters this morning in Atlanta.
I've had a wonderful life. I've had thousands of friends, and I've had an exciting and adventurous and gratifying existence. So I was surprisingly at ease, much more so than my wife was.
His treatment includes radiation that starts today. CBS News medical contributor Dr. David Agus says Mr. Carter is setting a great example by being very public about his illness.
That getting up there and showing your vulnerability, showing that he's taking this disease head on and showing that there's hope is a really positive sign to cancer patients all across this country. And I think more people have to step up and say, I have cancer and I'm going to live with it rather than die from it.
Government forecasters say July was the warmest ever, not for the U.S., but for the world. And NOAA climatologist Jake Crouch says 2015 is likely to be the hottest year.
Now that we're, fairly certain that 2015 will be the warmest year on record, it's time for us to start looking at what are the impacts of that? What does that mean for people on the ground?
Crouch says the main driver is record ocean warmth. He says the 10 highest above average ocean temperatures have all happened within the past 16 months. Another just released report has connected climate change to the record drought in California. CBS's Barry Bagnato.
A new study finds the California drought is 15 to 20% more severe because of climate change.
We are on a trajectory toward increasing frequency of intense and long droughts due to global warming.
Columbia University bioclimatologist Park Williams.
This is the first study that looks at how much global warming has done so far in causing drought.
It appears in the journal Geophysical Research Letters. Barry Bagnato, CBS News, Washington.
A training exercise last night at Fort Bragg could have had deadly consequences, but didn't when lightning struck. Fayetteville Observer's Amanda Dolasinski.
16 of the 60 soldiers conducting the live fire exercise were injured. Medics examined them for symptoms of the lightning strike, and of those, 15 were held overnight at Womack Army Medical Center for observation.
And one soldier is under cardiac care just in case. A new Quinnipiac poll shows Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump leading their respective primaries in some battleground states. Pollster Peter Brown says there's also a downside for the pair.
Mr. Trump and Secretary Clinton lead in the least favorable category. So their unfavorables are a good deal higher than their favorables, which would tend to indicate there's something of a lid perhaps on their growth potential.
Danny has become the first hurricane of the 2015 Atlantic hurricane season. National Hurricane Center says it's a relatively small and weak Category 1 storm, about 1,100 miles east of the Windward Islands, and for now, not a threat to land. On Wall Street, the Dow is down 270 points. This is CBS News.
This is an announcement for all people who want to take a risk-free challenge to whiten their teeth in 5 minutes. By calling now, you can whiten your teeth in 5 minutes using clinically proven power swabs. This risk-free challenge is for people whose smile has been yellowed by coffee, tea, red wine, or smoking. The Power Swabs 5-minute challenge is available by responding to this advertisement. If lines are busy, try again. Because the Power Swabs 5-minute challenge is exclusive, it's not available in drugstores. Power Swabs was formulated by Dr. Martin Ginniger and whitens teeth with a patented tooth detergent and whitening agent. It's so effective, we challenge you to try it for 5 minutes to see how white your smile could be. Get it risk-free. Dial 1-800-204-1201. That's 1-800-204-1201. Transform your smile into a wow, you look great smile. Dial 1-800-204-1201. That's 1-800-204-1201.
Many have long said you've got to be insane to own a car while living in some big cities, and CBS News correspondent Heather Bosch has some numbers that won't do much to change anyone's mind.
At least 2 luxury condo developments in New York are asking for $1 million to include a parking spot. Finding one elsewhere in the city, you still could pay up to $325,000. The Wall Street Journal found parking space prices soaring or being promoted as perks from New York to Boston to San Francisco and Miami. It's the law of supply and demand. There are fewer parking options. Here in Manhattan, for instance, a developer recently purchased a 4-story parking garage and turned it into condos. Heather Bosch, CBS News, New York.
Hunger Games star Jennifer Lawrence tops the Forbes list of the world's highest paid actresses, earning some $52 million this past year, but she's still way behind the best paid male actor, Robert Downey Jr. at $80 million. I'm Peter King, CBS News.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance?
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
A few scattered showers and thunder showers will move on through for the afternoon. Still lots of clouds out there. Highs into the lower 80s. Tonight, becoming partly cloudy, a little milder lows, mid and upper 60s. For Friday, a drier day, more sunshine, nice highs, lower to middle 80s. Looking good for the first half of the weekend as well. Check out Burger King. Looking for an inside deal? Burger King's got the answer. Download the Burger King app now to get exclusive savings of up to $30. Restrictions apply at Burger King. And I'm WDEF News 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
This is America Now with Meghan McCain.
Al Gore running is crazy. You're flying around in your private jet all over the world, and you want average Americans to care about the environment. Don't you think you should be doing your part as well?
Meghan McCain, weekdays at 7 p.m.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Your healthy radio addiction starts now.
Power to the people!
The Laura Ingraham Show.
Another immigration sob story.
Picture in your mind the picture of Jim Goldman, my friend, the INS agent, taking Elian Gonzalez out of the closet. So it is the terrified kid about to be repatriated, deported essentially, taken out of the United States.
We know the
to
emotional
Cuba.
argument
now multiply
you're playing,
that by 3 million times.
For every emotional argument we'll make about the poor illegal immigrant father being separated from his family, I will see you, and then raise you another anecdote of a 49-year-old guy who used to have a great landscaping business, and unfortunately he didn't hire illegal laborers, so he can't compete.
Don't even try these immigration sob stories on me on television. I've heard every single one of them. You can't separate families. You can't. Like Trump's point is, no, we'll unify them back in their home country. Don't separate a family. Keep them all together. I mean, they don't have problems separating families when they leave their children behind when they come to a country, right? But now it's our job to unify every family in the world. This makes no sense. That was on Hannity last night. Do you guys see me with Geraldo? It was fun. Always fun to do battle with Geraldo, an old nemesis on this issue of immigration. But, well, imagine Elian Gonzalez. Well, imagine all these Americans who can't find work, who are always told they're lazy or they're not good enough to compete with the immigrants, that we need to bring in all this indigent labor because Americans are too lazy.
Agricultural workers, poultry processors, meat packers, 5%. The people who deliver food 2 a.m. on a Friday, on a February night on a bicycle. Yeah. Where are the citizens to take those jobs, Sean?
It's insulting. Well, I'll tell you one thing, Geraldo.
The country is energized by these immigrants.
So what Geraldo's saying is that Americans are too lazy to work, and Jeb Bush says Americans aren't fertile, they don't start businesses as much as illegal immigrants. And to that, I will say, that's what infuriates so many of the people who are looking at this guy who maybe not even a conservative, Donald Trump, and saying, gosh, I guess I'm just going to throw in with him at this point because I'm not a bad person, and all these people are trying to paint me as such just because I want a country.
Sorry. You're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. We have a sea shift in American politics, a sea change. It's a shift. It's seismic. You feel it happening. And I mean, I hate to say, see, I told you so, but see, I told you so. Talk about two issues that people really care about, where the elites are totally wrong. Call them out. Criticize both parties where it's due. And you'll start seeing yourself rise in the polls. New poll out, Trump beating Bush in Florida. Quinnipiac has Trump up significantly. Not just that, Trump is up in now Pennsylvania. He's leading in Pennsylvania by double digits. Florida, he's at 21%. Bush is at 14%. Rubio falls down to 11%. Rubio's pretty much over. I mean, who thinks Rubio is going anywhere? I mean, remember Charles Krauthammer on Fox keeps saying Rubio is going to be the dog. Who believes that? Who believes Rubio is going to be the president of the United States? I mean, Rubio is essentially Jeb Bush.
Not if he keeps hitting kids in the head with footballs.
Oh, no, that wasn't a bad throw, but these kids have to learn to catch better. I don't criticize him for that. Well, yeah. Well, Drew says he's running for VP. VP for whom? I think Jeb's going to put old Rubio, and the Bushes never put a vice president on the ticket who could maybe be president someday. Think of Dick Cheney, think of Dan Quayle. Okay, they're not going to – Rubio is never going to be Jeb's vice president. Jeb is – I predicted Jeb was going to be the nominee unless someone took him down. But if Jeb's the nominee, Rubio, I mean, so wait, people are now, so if Kasich is the nominee, coming out in favor of Medicaid expansion, soft on the issue of marriage, right? apparently is not going to buy into the birthright citizenship repeal. Okay, but let's say Kasich is the nominee. Kasich's going to pick Rubio. I just don't see it. Common Core, yeah. How many of you watched what happened last night in New Hampshire? How many of you watched it? Okay. If you think nothing else about any of this, okay, nothing else about any of this. Politics is fun again. And people are being smoked out. Eric Erickson's all upset over at Red State. Sorry. I keep calling it Jeb State for some reason. They don't like that. They got all upset when I called it Jeb State. Just teasing you. My goodness, people get so sensitive. So over at Jeb State, Eric Erickson is upset because I think you know why I think he's upset? Because I think he thought he was going to deal a real blow to the Trump campaign by disinviting him to that little gathering they had down there in Atlanta, right? That, we're going to show him. We're going to disinvite him. And then everyone's going to know who I am, and I'm going to be the Dragon Slayer taking down Donald Trump. Well, pretty much what's happened since that? I mean, pretty much since he disinvited him from the Red State thing, that's like the best thing that ever happened to Trump. He's been going up and up in the polls. So now Eric Erickson wrote a piece saying, you can be anti-Trump, but not promote Jeb. So all these people think I'm promoting Jeb, they're all wrong. And all these other guys will be able to come to the fore, like Walker and Kasich, and you can criticize Trump. But my point on that is, what's the point of criticizing Trump? Trump has all the support. Criticize the guy who we know is not conservative on critical issues. And then maybe Walker and these other guys can get more attention.
I don't know Jeb Bush well, but I know him well enough. I hope you'll listen to what he says, because the record of Jeb Bush as governor of Florida is a record we should want for any Republican governor in the nation, any Republican president in the White House.
Well, what was curious about that introduction that Eric Erickson did, I'm not picking on Eric Erickson, he's a nice guy, but it was interesting. He said, I don't know him well, but when he started the introduction of Jeb Bush at the Red State gathering, he said he's his friend. That was strange. He said he's his friend, but then he went on to say, I don't know him well. Well, I don't get that. He's your friend, but you don't know him well. But it was a very nice introduction. So I don't know but Jeb State just came to mind, because obviously if you're gonna disinvite someone like a Trump, who's the happiest guy in the field? Who's the happiest guy? If you're trashing Trump, who's happiest? Jeb Bush. Because who's Trump going after the most? Jeb Bush. So that's why the dynamic is as it is. If you spend all your time attacking Trump, you're helping Jeb, whether or not you think you're helping Jeb. That's the point. So I don't think he understands that. By the way, sometimes the comment section of these articles where they're trashing Trump, the comments on National Review Online, have you seen these comments? Every time they come out trashing Trump, the commenters just go crazy. It's like they're at war with their own readers. Someone needs to do a piece about that. National Review Online is at war with its readers on some critical issues. Trade is number one, immigration is number two. All right. Every time they do one of these Trump hit pieces, the commenters go crazy. I skip after the first paragraph and just go to the commenters. Paris Hilton could out Trump in 20.